Elves are basically immortal, okay? If you've ever seen a movie or television show where it shows elves, there are certain attributes that we can pick up on and that they always have in common. They are immortal. Guess who else is immortal? The El or the gods or, all these other types of beings. They are immortal. Typically, they're shown as being archers, right? They have the bow and the arrow. This represents them being those of the arch or the archon. The archon, those of the arch, or those of the arcs, or the arc. So they'll be archers. They are forest dwellers, and this harkens back to a time that I'm not going to talk about too much in this video, but there is a prehistoric time that you are not taught in schools. This is a time of fantasy, of gods, wizards, everything that we're talking about today. And in that world, everything was very large. Everything in the world used to be titanic, gigantic. In our minds, we think of dinosaurs and things like that, but that's just something that's been force-fed into our imagination. But in reality, everything was gigantic and vastly different from today. So if you think of the old world, do yourself a favor and don't imagine everything that we have here today, but everything's just much bigger. The world was altogether different, but everything that was different in that prior world that we're not taught about, I call it ancient oblivion, the world that's been stripped from us, deleted from our history books, and hidden in secret libraries and places around the world. That world was a sylvan world, and sylvan means basically home of the elves. It was a forest world with giant trees that shot up into the skies. We've got the elven race from Alfhind, the Svartalfs, Alf, Alvin, Aleph, etc., California. Elves are basically immortal. They are archers, or those of the arch. They are forest dwellers. They are workers of magic, just like the gods, right? Just like these immortals of various cultures, religions, backgrounds, histories. All of the gods, all of the El, there's Alf over there, all of the El knew how to work magic. They had a technology that far surpasses ours and may have had a connection energetically that they infused with their technology, making them seem very magical to us today. Okay, here are the stages of lightning. Let's go ahead and show you this one right here. Now, as you can see towards the bottom, these are clouds down here, and there's the actual lightning that you're all familiar with. What you don't know, many of you might not know this, is far above those clouds, reaching high up into the sky, there are other electromagnetic phenomenon happening that is directly associated with the end result of what you call lightning. And they have named these things. As you can see at the very, very top, they have what is known as elves. And elves are this weird circular ring that kind of explodes from the middle immediately, and this all happens very quickly, okay? But you have this explosion from the middle, this sort of halo. And they have named this halo elves. Underneath that, you have this sort of trickling down from this halo, and they call these sprites. Why would they name the very highest phenomena that exists in our sky elves? That's very interesting to me. And also the second highest, the sprites. Named them after the elves. They don't have to do this. Another thing I forgot to write down is the governments of our world use things called extremely low frequency waves. Guess what that stands for? The acronym is ELFs, ELF waves. Now, it didn't have to be that. The acronym could have been really low frequency or absolutely low, or absolutely would have been the same thing. But you get my point, right? They always hide these things right in front of you because they realize that we're not going to ask questions. We're not going to look into names. We're not going to wonder why these things are called what they are. We've all but lost meaning behind the characters that we call our alphabet and our language. They know we're not going to inquire as to why. So they probably figure, why not? Let's just tell the truth. They're not going to accept it because we fed them so much of what we call fantasy and sci-fi. These people are never going to look into these things. And then they get to wipe their hands clean because whenever they're confronted about it by their superiors, they get to say, hey, we told them, we were honest, that was our disclosure right there, but nobody asked us about it. The Anunnaki Also, the word Anunnaki is related to the biblical Anakim. Remember I said if it ends in im, it's plural. So it's the Anakim, pluralized of Anak, which is short for Anunnaki. And then, of course, directly related is their captain or their lord, which was Enki, or is Enki. Enki, En means lord, and Ki means earth. So literally, Enki is the landlord. He's the landlord. Another word that's directly related to the Anunnaki is the name Anakin. You might be familiar with Anakin Skywalker, right? Also known as Darth Vader. Anakin, Anakin. Directly related to the word Anunnaki. And then, of course, Skywalker, right? Those who from heaven to earth came. The Skywalkers. These are the beings that can walk around in the sky. They can fly, basically. Anakin Skywalker is one of the Jedi, or was one of the Jedi. And the word Jedi is real. It's a real thing, that the Jedi really exist. It's not a mythical made-up word that George Lucas just thought it sounded cool. It's really a word that exists. There is a such class as the Jedi. The way it's spelled is D-J-E-D-I. DJ. The D, it's become silent in our day and age today, but it's J. The Jedi. So anytime you see the D and the J together, typically it conveys the meaning of a serpent, right? Remember I told you about the picture form? So the serpent, those of the serpent, the Jedi, they are the serpent class, right? And we're going to tie all these things together. They're going to make absolute sense by the end of this video. The Jedi are not fictional. They are the workers of magic. They are the elite. They are the ancient El, or the Elven race, those who could manipulate energy in ways that we don't comprehend today. So today we call it fantasy. Today we pay no attention to it. Oh, for example, let me talk about this. This is from the movie, or it was from the movie, Harry Potter. In Harry Potter, you see magic where the pictures seem to move and come alive. And when Harry Potter came out, we were very used to pictures not moving. However, we've come out with our own technology that very closely mimics what you see in Harry Potter. This is what magic is. Magic is a word and a descriptor that we use when we can't describe how something works. We say it is magical. It is simply the working of energy. It's doing something technologically or energetically that others don't understand how it's done. The Jedi, the DJ, which basically means serpents, the Jedi or the Jinn. The Jinn, if you're familiar with Islam, are the beings made of smokeless fire. Or Jinni, the Jinni, the genies, right? The genies are these powerful beings, typically blue, by the way. That's going to come into play later. We also have a name, Aladdin, right? That's a very American cowboy way of saying Allah Jinn, right? The Jinn of Allah, the Allah Jinn, or Aladdin, basically. Next on the list for the El, and who represent the El? Of course, we're going to talk about Superman. Superman, you all are familiar with. Everyone's heard of Superman, but maybe you don't know his real name, which is Kal-El. Kal-El basically means strong God or very strong leader, okay? And Kal-El, Superman's dad name, is Jor-El, or Yor-El, which I believe means God of rivers, which is also very interesting because if you look at Enki, the leader of the Anunnaki, or one of the leaders of the Anunnaki, typically he's got these two rivers kind of pouring out of him with fish in them. So I find that to be a reference to Enki directly, Superman's father. Superman is a cartoonified El. He is the absolute truth of historical record, something that did exist at the very least at some point in time that has been sort of caricaturized. You know, whenever you go to a party or something and there's somebody drawing caricatures, they kind of look like you, but they're not. They reflect some of your more dominant attributes. That's a caricature. That's what Superman is. As a matter of fact, that's what all of the superheroes are. It's like the telephone game, right? When you play the telephone game, you've got the first sentence that the first person says, and they whisper it into the next person's ear. And 50 people later, when that when that sentence comes back to the originator, typically it's been changed or slightly altered. It's the same thing with our perception of what we call the gods, or the El, or the Elohim, or the Eloah, or the Allah, or etc., and so on and so forth. We have come to describe them differently based on our different interactions with them, based on different historical timelines, based on different atmospheres and different the way that the earth has changed over time and our surroundings and our scenery. We have seen them quite literally in a different light. And so, is it any surprise that we have so many different references to them, but we have lost sight that these are all the same references. These are all the same exact beings that we are giving reverence to, or paying homage to, or talking about.